welcome to the episode 2 of the Three Moons Audio Podcast. I'm Gavin.
I'm Audrey.
And I'm Jordan.
And we are not at Robert Lang Studios. We are at my house. Because my house...
Casa.
Yeah. Mi casa es...
Su casa.
Tres Lunas casa.
Oh. See what you did there.
Yeah.
Wow.
There we go. So yeah, we're at my house. We are recording on some of my home equipment. Talking through my trusty SM57, and all of our mics are running through my Soundcraft Signature 12 multi-track. It's a handy little interface / mixer where you can record and spit it out to the mixer, and then do some mixing, and then spit it back out into the computer, and it's fun.
Fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm also talking into a 57 today. My own 57.
Nice. And me too. I think we're all on 57s today.
That's
Each our own 57.
That's weird. It's like we planned that.
No way.
Why would we be doing that?
It's crazy how that happens.
Yeah. Why would we all be talking on 57s today, friends?
Well, today's theme is we're going to be talking about kind of the basics of audio recording and kind of talk about how we got started again and just kind of things that you can do at home to start your journey in the audio field, so to speak.
Exactly. And that's why we are all using 57s. SM57s by Shure are typically one of the first microphones used by aspiring audio engineers. These are industry workhorses. They are used for studio recording, live sound, home recording, all sorts of stuff. And they sound great no matter what. You can use them literally for anything.
And they're solid. They won't break. You don't have to be super gentle. They're dynamics, so they're easy to use on anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can hammer some nails afterwards if you want. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And record
2
at
in
the
1.
same time.
At
You
the
can
same time.
record yourself hammering nails.
I mean, Sylvia Massey.
Yeah, exactly. If she
Just
says
waiting
so.
for her to do it.
Yeah.
Who's Sylvia Massey, by the way?
Miss Sylvia. Sylvia Massey is one of the top female engineers.
She's famous for working with Tool. I think she did.
Tool and Prince.
And Prince, yeah.
Yeah. She's known for shooting up a piano and recording it.
Yes, that was that on the Tool?
That was on the Tool
Yeah.
album. Yeah. And she's just a huge believer in the power of the 57. She's somebody who believes in why not just throw a 57 on anything and everything. And she's just an overall badass woman in the industry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's a part of Mixing with the Masters.
Oh, nice. Yeah, one thing that I thought was cool is she is a firm believer in having like the control room and the live room where you're recording like all in one room.
Mm-hmm.
So she doesn't normally you have like a wall and like a window between the control room and the recording room. She does everything all in one room, which I thought was really interesting because she wants to be like right there with the artist and not have any dividing.
Yeah, and she has her own studio down in Ashland, Oregon.
Oh, nice.
Let's go.
Let's
do
go.
it.
I mean, I think
Field
we
trip.
should do a field trip. Maybe do our podcast there.
We'll just show up.
yeah, she'll
It's
love
fine.
it.
Yeah.
It's Sylvia.
I've met her. She'll
Yeah.
remember me,
It's
obviously.
cool. Yeah. She'll be like, oh, yeah, Audrey. Yeah, come
Yeah,
on
Audrey, I
in.
remember you.
Would you like some wine?
You want some
I made it
wine?
myself. I shot the grapes with a shotgun.
But yeah, so 57s are awesome, and like we've done some shootouts with mics where we've even used like some of the really fancy like vintage U47s, and don't get me wrong, they sound great.
Absolutely.
But the
Amazing.
57 also still sounds pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
There's
compared to
just
it,
nothing
so.
that compares to a 57 and its like reliability and consistency and knowing that you're going to like get a usable sound out of it.
Right.
Like if I'm ever struggling with microphones, I always go to a 57 and I'm like, you know what, let's just try it because I bet we're going to like it. And if anything, we can just add something else to it.
So like 9 times out of 10, it's like
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
Recording some elaborate grand piano piece, and it's like, oh, it sounds so cool. I just need something more. Just cork a 57
Yeah,
in one
we
of the
just
corners.
found out that our Steinway sounds best with two 57s in it.
Actually though,
It
yeah.
Yeah.
really does
it really
sound
does.
amazing, the Steinway.
Yeah, we tried some like U87s, some 414s, some Royers, and even just the 57s. It's like, that sounds great. That's what I want.
It's good.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just get everything. Yeah, everything you need, nothing you don't. I'm sure that's like a fast food slogan somewhere. So
Yeah.
Well, now it's the slogan for the 57.
it's everything you need.
You're
nothing you
welcome.
don't.
You're welcome, sure. You can cut us a check.
Yeah, we'll be in contact for our payment. Money, please.
Money, please.
Cool. So yeah, like we said, we're talking about beginner stuff. We're talking about getting started, and you know, this is typically one of the first things that someone who's just starting is gonna get. They're gonna get a 57 when they're really like, okay, I'm gonna get serious. I'm not gonna use my Best Buy mic anymore.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. 57 was my first mic.
Right. Yeah. This is one of them. Actually, this is the first 57 I've actually owned. But
Same.
Yeah,
too.
I've
Whoa.
long-term
Nice.
borrowed many in my day. So on the topic of getting started, like how did you guys get started? Like what specific, because we touched on it in the previous podcast, but what exactly do you remember like your very, very, very first recording?
I do remember my very, very,
my
very
gosh.
first recording.
Elaborate. Spin a yarn.
Let's see. I was probably about 6 years old. My stepdad's a musician down in Portland, and he and I bonded over music when I was really young, and we still do, obviously. But yeah, he called me into the office one day, and he was like, "Here, I got a 2-track tape deck. We're going to record a song." And I was like 6. So I started a little 1-person band called the Ladybugs. Yes, it was plural.
It's like the Lone Rangers.
Yeah. And we recorded my first hit, which was also, I think, called the Ladybugs, and changed my life.
Nice.
So you went like the Josie and the Pussycats route then.
Oh, yeah.
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 Because I'm pretty sure like Josie and the Pussycats hit was
Well, that was my favorite movie when I was that age. So and
the-
Spice World.
Spice World. Okay.
Spice World.
You know, I was actually thinking of the actual cartoon,
Oh, I
not
like
the Tara Reid.
No, the Tara Reid movie is brilliant.
Exactly.
But that was my first recording experience. And then from there, I just grew up in kind of the live sound scene of Portland.
Nice.
And then in high school, my choir
Wait,
director.
where did you do live sound at?
I didn't like do live sound
Oh, okay.
because I was just like in that scene because my stepdad was in music.
gotcha,
So I
yeah.
was just like always
there.
at shows, always like, you know, going to music. I started going to concerts at like a really young age, probably younger than I should have by myself.
So you're just in that world.
But I was just in that world
yeah.
and I really, really loved it. And then in high school, my choir director was like, "Hey, we need somebody to help set up for choir shows before they happen. And why not have somebody like in the choir do it and like learn what's up?" And I was like, "Me, please." And so I teamed up with like my band director and choir director, and I started setting up for live sound at my high school.
Nice.
And then they slowly started like an audio engineering like thing within the high school, and I was in it, and I did that for like 2 years. And then I went to the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences
In Arizona?
in Arizona.
Nice.
Good old Crass. Shout out to you.
Is there a mascot for Crass?
The Crascot?
The Crass.
No.
Yes, too good. I think you just invented it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Crascot. You're welcome, Crass. We're just really helping all of
Yeah, exactly.
this today. But yeah, and I graduated there with a 4.0.
Oh my gosh.
So watch out.
Are you the mascot? Are you the Crascot?
I'm the Crascot. I'm the token graduate. And then I started at Robert Lang's Studios. I did my internship there, and then I got hired out, and I've been there for a year and a half now,
Nice.
and going strong.
And that's Robert Lang Studios in Shoreline.
Yep,
Yeah.
which is where we all met.
Yes.
Exactly. And that's how we started this whole thing. Well, I was a choir kid when I grew up, kind of like Audrey. I started singing when I was like 8 years old or something, and just kind of was in choirs. I was in the Northwest Boy Choir, shout out. And that's really when I started to get interested in the recording sphere. We did my very first recording. This is a little humble brag here, but we did a recording for a CD that got nominated for a Grammy, which was super cool to be a part of. And
So you're a Grammy-nominated artist.
I am.
I did not know about this.
No big deal.
NBD.
I was like 12 at the time. But it was really cool. And I got super like interested in the whole recording aspect. And I was like, oh my gosh, people do this for a living. This is so cool. And so then growing up kind of in high school, I started to get really interested in recording, and I purchased a an M Audio Firewire Solo, I think, that was my first interface. And a 414 was actually my first mic. I don't know how that happened, but somehow that was my first mic. And then I started recording using GarageBand. Actually, no, before I got all that stuff, I was recording with GarageBand. And then eventually I moved up to Logic, and then that's when I got all my equipment. But at first with GarageBand, I was literally just like, for the people watching at home, I had like a laptop like this, and I would try to find where the microphone was, and I found out it was right here underneath the speaker grill. And so I would literally like put my face up to it and sing directly into it, because I found out that's how you could get the most like clear, defined sound. And it wasn't like all mostly like this, like normal.
I used to do that with Audacity.
Oh,
I
really?
started on Audacity.
Nice. Yeah, and like I remember my first time doing it, I was like singing all over the thing, trying to figure out like
you're
where
trying to find the spot.
Yeah, I was like, where is the sweet spot? So that was cool. And I then like towards the end of high school, I started to record my friends. We recorded a whole album my senior year, and then I went to college for music school. But at the college, there was a recording studio at my school, so I got involved in that. And then by the time I was a senior in college, I became the lead recording engineer for the studio at school, which is really cool. We just did a lot of like classical recordings. We recorded jazz bands and orchestras and choirs and stuff like that. Pretty minimal, simple, pretty much just like a stereo set of two mics, stereo recording. And then met these guys at Robert Lang Studios. We did the education program at Robert Lang Studios, and now we've started this business together. So, and that's where we are.
Yeah.
That's my story.
That's your story, and you're sticking to it.
Yeah.
I grew up not in Washington. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Shout out Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. I was gonna
Walter
say
White,
Breaking
yeah.
Bad.
And I actually had to think, because I was like, when did I first really start doing it? And I remember when I was like 4 or 5 years old, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was like still being aired, because I'm significantly older than my partners in crime here.
Just a little bit.
So just a little bit. And I was peak Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I remember I had a little like cassette like boombox, plastic thing, but it had a built-in microphone that you could detach it, and it plugged in, and you could play your cassettes, but you could also record to them. So my first recording was a self-recording of me singing along to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song. not like the long form version, but just the theme song, the 20, 30 seconds or whatever. Followed by Drives Me Crazy by Fine Young Cannibals. And then I think it's kind of a deep cut by Kenny G, called What Does It Take? And it's, obviously Kenny G, so his annoying saxophone. He's a Washington native, and actually probably one of the first major artists to put Bobby Langs on the map. So
True. Yeah.
Shout out
I
Kenny
always
G.
forget about that.
Yeah, shout out Kenny G.
Kenny G.
Yeah. Sorry for calling your saxophone annoying, but come on.
It's okay.
But
You've heard worse by now.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard worse. Pretty much just singing along to the chorus of them shouting, "What does it take?" Every now and then, because those are like my 3 favorite songs when I was like 4 or 5 years old. And then just kind of going, I picked up drums when I was 11, and I was part of a kids youth group at a church that I went to when I was younger, and I got roped into helping set up and tear down the audio equipment. The school.
you were a roadie.
I was a roadie for the church. I was a church roadie.
Nice.
It was like a mobile church. They set up in a middle school at the time, so they had to set up and tear down every time, and so we had to lug in PA speakers and run cables and stuff like that. Still can't wrap a cable to save my life, and I've literally been doing it since I was like 13.
I was told by a teacher I'm a natural at wrapping cables.
Nice.
That's great. I'm so happy for you, Audrey.
I just thought that was like one of the funniest things ever. Like I was dropping a cable and he was like, "Wow, you're a natural." I was like, "What does that even mean?"
Okay.
This is my life now. And then I got to like run the board and learn the cues for like the PowerPoints and the music and stuff like that, and it was really fun. Then just from there, I got away from the church because I'm a horrible sinner, and just playing in punk bands with my friends. We'd always try and record in garages and just hanging microphones over garage door opening rails, and using microphones and trying to be DIY in punk rock. And it was always really fun. It was always really, I always had a blast doing that. And then, like a lot of people, GarageBand really started to hit. Pre-GarageBand, I used the sound recorder on my parents' computer, because again, there's like a microphone right above the monitor. And
you said you used the Windows audio.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
like
what
a
you're
sound recorder. Yeah,
It's like voice memos, but on a computer.
But on a computer, yeah, yeah. and
awesome.
you could like speed stuff up so you can
That's
make your
basically
sound.
what Audacity was just like an audio recorder.
Right, yeah, and it was just like a little thing, and you could see the sound waves. And
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
just really awful. But I'd hold a guitar up to it and try and play the 3 chords that I knew and stuff. And but I don't know. I think that's kind of when you get the bug and you realize, oh man, like music is neat and things sound cool when you can hear them back and stuff. And like you just get addicted to it, and you're like, how do I make it sound better? How do I do this better?
Yeah.
And you just follow that progression. It's using the tape to the Audacity or the sound recorder to GarageBand to Logic to Pro Tools and then if you're really cool, then you go back to tape, but you do it really fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you use it with Pro Tools, and
Exactly.
you're like, ooh.
Yeah. So so yeah, that's my story. And
I thought it was really interesting, Jordan, that you mentioned, because I've always thought about this too. Like the second that you realize that this is a job, like the second that you realize that this is an option.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, for me, I was, like, growing up in the music scene, and I obviously had a huge passion for music, but, like, I was terrified. Like, I have stage fright. Like, I'm terrified of performing in front of people, but I desperately wanted to be part of the music scene. Mm-hmm. And so it was really cool to, like, realize, like, oh, this is an actual job.
People do this for a living.
Like, I can, like,
Super
help.
crucial.
I can help people create, and I can be, like, artistic and creative and, like, be a part of that process. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Neato. Cool. What's something you guys wished you knew right away when you started out? Like when you really got into recording? Like what's a concept?
Oh, a concept?
Yeah, like just something that like took forever to grasp. Like for me, it's wrapping cables.
You're not a natural like Audrey.
I'm not gifted in the wrapping cables.
So not everyone can be
world.
Audrey.
Yeah, I know. I'm so special. I think for me, like, and it's something that I think I'm still kind of struggling with, is just like getting over the concept of like money isn't everything for like in terms of like you being able to like do things. Like you shouldn't let money get in the way of you trying to do what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Like for me, I was always like, oh, I can't do that because I don't have the money to get that software or that like plugin, or oh, I can't afford that really nice microphone. Like, so then why even try? And then I realized, oh, like, if anything, you become a better engineer because you're having to work even harder to get something
right
at the same quality.
Well, and that totally ties into using these microphones to begin with. Like, I've heard a lot of engineers say, if you can't get a good sound with, just a couple 57s
Exactly.
and whatever, like, it doesn't matter if you get that vintage U47 or you have that crazy, like, 1176 compressor. Like, if you can't use the gear, like the cheap stuff, then it doesn't matter. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember meeting with a guy in Portland who owns a couple studios and asking him before I went off to school, and I was like, what do you recommend? And he was like, honestly, use GarageBand. He was like, just get into GarageBand and like master it. He's like, because the second you master it, it doesn't matter that you can't afford Logic right now, because whenever you do, you'll know Logic and then you'll know Pro Tools. And if anything, you'll be able to go back to GarageBand and you'll be able to do anything. And yeah, like you don't need money to record a project. You don't need money to really like, money doesn't
dictate everything.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
going to affect. I mean, obviously, you're going to have a quality change, but like, it's not something that should stop you.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my thing. I'm
Yeah.
still in that boat of like, oh, but I can't afford that plugin, and then I'm like, well, I got to figure out my own way to make
Yeah.
my own
Right.
plugin.
Yeah.
And what about you, Gavin?
Me, I think, as far as like a concept goes, I don't know because I know so much now, and I'm such a
So talented.
like my only.
We're
my-
all so talented.
So talented. I think just signal flow. Like I know that's a real basic thing, but I it took me a little while just to kind of grasp it, and then I was like, oh, it's like plumbing,
Yeah, there's always an out and in.
and stuff like that, and it's just kind of like just read, just and don't be afraid to experiment and stuff like that, and don't be afraid to ask questions, and
Don't be afraid to Google.
exactly, yeah, and Google and so and that kind of that's kind of what came to it. It's just kind of like, oh, like how do I get it from here to here, and I want it to hit this thing and do that, and I want it to sound a certain way,
And forums are great
yeah,
too.
exactly.
And YouTube.
Gear sluts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gear
Shout
Sluts
out
is
Gear
great.
Sluts. So yeah, and just even asking, because it's a pretty basic, that's the core of audio engineering is it's getting a sound and then making it go somewhere and capturing it elsewhere, and not being afraid to ask the dumb questions about that. Is what I think if I learned to swallow my pride and just ask the dumb questions sooner, I would have saved a lot of frustration. So
I'm kind of just getting to that point again where I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm going to ask the dumb questions because I'm tired of not knowing the answers. Like, I'm like, you know what? Like, who cares if it's a dumb question? Everybody's asked dumb questions at some point.
Yeah.
Everybody has to learn. And yeah, you might get a look at first, but they'll still tell you the answer. And then you'll learn.
Well, and if you come at it from like, I just want to know, like, I feel like it's dumb for people to be like, really, you're going to ask that question?
Well, that's the other thing is that like, if you just ask and you're at least like upfront, like people are going to be like, oh yeah, totally. And they'll tell you.
That's fine. Like we don't.
It's better to do that than to act like and then like majorly mess up or like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I had a couple. I think you took my main one, which is just like the basic. No, it's okay. Just the basics of signal flow in general. One of our teachers, Jaquel, he had a saying: "It goes in and it goes out. Like it always goes in something and comes out of something. And if you just always think of it that way, it's actually like even the most complicated setups are actually pretty easy if you just think about it. Okay, it comes out of the microphone into a preamp, out of the preamp into your converter. You know what I mean? It's just like you just think about it.
And a patch bay, is the same concept. It's just like, oh, if I'm going in, then I have to come out of it.
Exactly. Yeah, and you just think about it in that way. And like one thing that when I first got into a big fancy recording studio, like there's so many things and it gets so overwhelming. Like the patch bay she was just talking about, it's like I don't even. I
was terrified.
There's so many things. It's so overwhelming. But if you just think about it, like okay, just go slow. Just don't let it overwhelm you. Just think, okay, you got to go in and go out, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. And now it's like you can get to the point where you can just have people tell you numbers and be like, okay, 1 to 2 to 5 to 6, and you're like, okay, and you know what you're doing.
These numbers make sense.
Another thing too, I guess it didn't take a long time to grasp, but it was just like a piece of advice that was so obvious that I was like, why didn't I think about this before? And just like be organized when you record. I'm such a not organized person, and over the last few years I've become an organized person, and it's just like made my life so much easier.
File management.
Yeah, file management and taking notes. Like that was the big thing. One of my first big projects that I worked on, I didn't take notes. And then I really shot myself in the foot because when I was doing like vocal comps and like editing, I was just like, I have to sit here and listen to every take. And at a certain point, you're listening to like the same like line like 5, 6, 7 times, and you're like,
they all sound
the same.
Yeah, it sounds like nothing. Yeah,
it's like I don't know, I don't care anymore.
Yeah,
and so just having notes, like just like as many things as you can jot down in the moment. Because my whole thing was like, oh, I'll remember later. I'll remember like take 4 was the good take. Like I'll remember or whatever the thing is. Like I'll remember that little detail.
Yeah,
and
you always
don't.
think you're gonna remember. You never remember.
Yeah.
There's so much going on during a session, and there's no one who expects you to remember that either.
Right.
Which is why if you end up thinking that you can, and then you just look like an idiot.
You just look dumb.
Yeah,
you're
just like, oh, okay, I guess.
You're like, man, I really wish I made a note of what was the good take.
Because they're like, because they're like, oh, where are your notes? And you're like, oh,
what are notes?
Notes? I thought you would know.
Yeah.
You play the notes. You're the musician.
Don't you know what takes you like that?
I press the buttons.
Yeah.
But yeah, just taking good notes, I guess, was just like a concept that.
Also, especially if you're working on a project that you know that you're sending to somebody else to mix, it's just so sure. It's like common courtesy, polite to like actually give them like an organized session where your tracks are actually named. You know, the best takes are on top. You have basic edits done, but in a nice, like organized way.
Right.
Where anybody can look at your session and go, oh, okay, I know exactly what's going on. Is really important.
Yeah.
Take notes. Be organized. Ask questions.
And honestly, like taking those extra 5 seconds to name your tracks might seem like a pain in the butt, like at the time. And you're like, oh, but I got to be moving. I got to be fast. But it's like, ultimately, it's going to save you. Because if you wait and then you look at like 27 just audio tracks that just say audio 1, audio 2.
Oh my gosh, that's my worst nightmare.
Like that is like, and there are engineers who do that.
We're looking over.
I'm looking at it and I'm like, I didn't label them. But it's funny because I'm kicking myself and I was like, man, like Jordan's gonna mix this and he's gonna be like, oh, okay. Luckily, there's only 3 of us, so he's like, okay, that one's Gavin.
And we all have pretty distinct voices.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm gonna label these right now.
But yeah, file management. That was one of the first things that I was ever taught in school, and they like drilled it into me. They were just like file management. And I still kind of am working on it, but I think everybody is. Like I think every engineer that you meet will be like, yeah, I'm working on my file management.
Yeah.
I'm still developing new ways to be organized.
Yeah. It's like it's a struggle to keep my sock drawer organized. So
yeah.
Well, sometimes I feel like, I don't know, maybe there's that fine line of like, you're almost taking like too many notes on things. And at some point you got to be
and then it's like, yeah, you got to be like, stop. Because now you're just making it more complicated.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I can take notes on my notes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's all good practical advice, and the internet is like full of advice. So sorry for contributing to the echo chamber of advice. So, I don't want to ask like what would be advice you would give to an aspiring audio engineer, because quite frankly, we're still aspiring, and I think we'll always be aspiring audio engineers.
Always learning.
Always learning. There's always
That's the beautiful
stuff.
thing about this industry, I think, and about this profession is that you're always going to be learning. Like
Right.
there's nobody who's really going to know everything. Especially because it's such an experimental industry. Like everybody's constantly coming up with new concepts and new things.
Yeah, I mean, it's still an art. Like, it's not going to be like, this is the conventional way to do it. It's like,
I mean, there are some people who are like, this
that's
is
true.
the set way.
Yeah, and it's and that stuff sounds sterile, and it's not inspired, and it sounds good, and it sounds, it's usable, but there's no
I mean, I had a hard
vibe.
time because my school was so like, just drilled stuff into us, and they were like, there are right and wrong ways. And I remember being in school and being like, no, there aren't right and wrong ways. Like, that's the whole point. Like, like that's what makes this so like fun, is that there shouldn't be right and wrong. So when I left there, I was like super lost, and I had no idea, because I would like go into a session and assist for somebody who wouldn't be following the rules, and I'd be like, wait, what are you doing?
I'm gonna tell.
Yeah, like yeah. So advice.
Advice, yeah. So what would be advice you would give your past self? And yeah.
Honestly, to just really go for it. I think I had a lot of like hesitation and a lot of what I did to get to where I am. Like I knew, like once I like was in high school, I knew pretty like matter of fact, like this is my game plan. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to Crass. I'm going to like get my internship. I'm going to go to Seattle. Like I kind of had it all like planned out. But before that, I was very much just like, oh, like I can't work in the music industry. Like everybody's going to tell me that I'm a failure if I work in the music industry, or that I'm not going to make it. And so I was very just like hesitant, and I just didn't really want to like fully commit to it. And I think about like where I would be now if I had like fully committed and just been like, hell yeah, I'm going to do this. Like, who cares what everybody says?
Right.
And if I had like really just like, yeah, just gone for it. And I think
Screw
that's
the haters.
Yeah. And just like really immersed myself and just,
Yeah.
Let it, just
I think
let
that's
it
my
consume
biggest
you.
piece of advice is like, if you're into it, then be into it.
Then do it, yeah.
Just go for it. Like, don't let anything stop you.
Yeah, it's because obviously this is a bit more of like I'll say philosophical question,
Yeah.
But it's, it's like, does it make you happy? Yes, then do it. You'll figure out a way,
Exactly.
Like, I held off for so long. That's why I kick myself, because I feel like I have kind of a late start to it. And it's like, man, I really wished I'd just kind of did it. I wish I made did more research, so maybe I could have gone to Crafts.
It's so funny because I feel that way too. Like
Same.
sometimes I feel like I feel like, which is so funny because I
Yeah.
have to remind myself how old I am sometimes.
Right.
And I have to be like, Audrey, like, you're fine. But there are times where I'm like, I'm not as far as I should be. I'm not as far as I should be.
Yeah.
And then I realize that like there's nowhere that you should be.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's if it's what you like and if it's what gives you value, then absolutely do it. That's kind of been my a personal level. That's kind of been my philosophy is like I want to start doing stuff that gives me value. I want to invest in myself, and I just kind of felt that I was selling myself short, not really just giving it a good go. And it's like I'm never gonna know if I'm gonna be good at this if I don't try. I just if I don't try, I'm just gonna be full of regret. And if I do try, it's like, well, at least I know, and then I can go back to a not as enriching life.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the cool thing about this is that like if there's so many like divisions of this industry that
Oh
like
yeah, totally.
Oh
you
yeah,
can always end up somewhere else, and you probably will end up somewhere else. I think that
Right.
a lot of people start out as audio engineers and then they find themselves in like management or they find themselves in
Not even
other
like
things.
like Foley or like
yeah.
Yeah.
doing sound for movies or something.
Yeah, exactly.
you just kind of you make friends and you network and you make connections and you
Yeah.
just ride it out. I've been super lucky because my wife has been she's been a very motivating factor behind that too. She's just like, dude, freaking do it. Like,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's,
like it's nice to have, a cheerleader as it were. And, so obviously, a piece of advice I would say is just find people that uplift you and uplift
Yes.
them too. There's,
I think this is such an industry where we all need to support each other.
yeah,
Yep.
It's really important that we all have each other's backs as engineers. And I think you'll find that like if you meet somebody who isn't like that, like it's very obvious and it's very like almost alarming and you're almost like, ooh.
oh yeah.
And you kind of know to steer clear of that person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those people tend to have pretty low shelf lives too, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
You can't be like,
Sorry.
you can't be selfish. I mean, you can be selfish to an extent, but like you really shouldn't be selfish as an audio engineer.
Yeah.
Like the people who are selfish and who just like are working on that sort of stuff and only see their own personal goals in mind aren't going to make it that far because the whole point of this industry is to work off other people and to network and connect.
exactly, yeah, and
networking is like crucial.
yeah,
And it's all about who knows.
yeah, and you want to make the artist. You're recording an artist, and you're working on a project to make that sound as good as it can, not to make yourself be as cool as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like a perk. It's like I
Yeah.
did this, and it sounds freaking cool.
Yeah.
There's no better feeling than when you get to deliver that at the end of a project and they're just like, hell yeah.
I think kind of going off of that whole concept of like we've all got to be like together in this team and uplift each other. Another aspect of that I've been learning and advice that I would tell my former self is don't undersell your abilities. And even though you're not necessarily at the top of the game, you're no Chris Lord Algae or whatever,
Whomever, yeah.
you still got to, because the thing that happens, and I'm sure we'll talk about this again on the podcast as well, is like what I think has happened in my limited time in this industry is that people, with the rise of home recording, people are always like, oh, I have a buddy that can do it cheaper. And what that happens is now we're having to compete with the person that can do it cheaper. So rates have gone down, and now we're like starting to undersell our abilities, and we're like, oh, I'll do it for you for $10 less this time, or I'll do it for you $20 because my buddy can do it for free or whatever.
Right.
And so I think just all engineers, we kind of gotta like have this mutual agreement, like don't undercut other engineers. Don't be like, hey, I'll do it for you for cheaper. Just come over to me. It's
Yeah,
like don't have
it's-
that attitude
Yeah.
because that's not fair to the industry, and you're just hurting the whole industry as a whole.
And nobody's going to want to work with you or like team up with somebody that they feel like is going to screw them over in the end.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, just know that your work has value and worth, and you deserve to be paid for it. It might
Yeah.
not be like, it might not be a ton of money, but you still like doing things for free. There's a time and a place to do that. Totally.
For sure.
But for the most part, at least talk to your buddy, be like, hey, I know I'm your best friend, but like, do you want to throw me, $20 to do this? Like even just something to at least like give some value to it. So it's not like I'm just doing this for free. Like to show like, this is like a career for me. This is what I have to do to make money.
Yeah. And to be taken seriously, even
yeah.
if they're just like buying you food. I mean, when I started out and I was interning, like I was an intern. So I understood that like, pay isn't really a thing. And I would have people who would tip me and that would be amazing. And then I would have people who would just like buy me food during the session.
Pizza is currency.
And just those, and even just getting like a meal for that day, like that's enough
huge.
to be like, hey, I appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than like being in that intern position and just like being told what to do and not having any recognition, which is what a lot of people do. And you have to be okay with that. Like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Gonna happen.
You're going to get crap.
Yeah, you're gonna, and then at the end of the day, they'll just be like, all right, bye. But yeah, that's.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, that's really it. There's a lot to this, to recording, to you need a lot of drive. You need a lot of, bravery, and you just need to just freaking go for it, man.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think that that's solid advice, is just to like really go for it. Because I think that if you're hesitant, people are going to sense that from you, and everybody loves a go-getter in this industry.
Exactly.
Like, everybody loves
Yes.
somebody who's like, yes, yes, yes.
That's the only way to make it. Because I've been thinking about this too. Like, if you go into accounting, for example, you have a pretty high chance you're going to find a job in accounting because everybody needs an accountant.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Or teaching or a doctor or whatever. And
That reminds me, Jordan, we need an accountant.
we need an accountant. Yes. Yeah, seriously.
Let's ask for Bob's.
But anyways, but going into a creative field, like whether you're a musician or you're an audio engineer or something, these fields are hard because it's so competitive. It's not like there's a million audio engineering jobs out in the world, And so I think, a little bit of tough love here, but like if you want to make it in this industry, you have, like they've been saying, you have to go for it. You have to really, really want it, because there's always going to be somebody out there that's more hungry, has more drive, more ambition than you, and you've got to compete with that,
And
so
who's gonna have that one more connection than you do.
Exactly.
Right.
That leads them. I mean, because honestly, it could just be that all they have is that connection, but
Yep.
that gets them there.
That gets
and
them-
so you have to have that drive to be like, I don't have that connection, but I want to be where you are, or even above you.
Yep.
So I'm gonna just like outshine you.
Yep.
Sorry.
And part of that too is just being
Yeah, it's a weird, like it's a catch-22 because
Yeah.
you want to be supportive, but there is an element of like
There is a
competitive.
competitive.
There's-
element.
it's not cutthroat,
Healthy.
it's,
But
it's
there's a
healthy
way to do it
competition.
respectfully.
Yeah.
I shouldn't just be like, oh, I'm gonna outshine you.
Yeah.
Bye. But just like, yeah.
But being nice and being supportive, and if you encounter someone with an impressive resume and has a lot of experience, like being open, having open ears and an open mind can really go a long way. So and that's really how you kind of formulate those that's how you form those connections, and that's how you
And
really
pushing
properly network.
any existing ego aside is really important in that.
Gavin, what you said kind of reminded me of, I think most people, most engineers at least, if they love what they're doing, they love to talk about their craft. They love to, like, if you have questions, like if people ask me about what I do, I love to talk about it because it's what I love to do. You know what I mean?
I love it when people have absolutely no idea what the job is.
Yeah.
And they're just like,
What engineering
what
is?
that?
Yeah.
Like, that's my favorite. And I'm just like, oh, I plug in microphones and I run the soundboard and I run Pro Tools, and they're just like,
What?
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so kind of to tie it back to, like, I think Audrey, you said this towards the beginning of the podcast, but like, don't be afraid to talk to people in the field and ask questions, pick their brain. Because most of the people I've learned like love to talk about it and share their experiences. And
if they don't, then that's weird, and
yeah,
you shouldn't. Like, they're obviously one of the weird ones, and you just need to like take a step back.
No, it's my knowledge. You can't have it.
Yeah, I think if anything, people in this industry are just supportive and they want to share what they've discovered so that you can discover new things and bring it back to them. I mean, people
Right.
are so just like, let's keep this conversation going.
right. and it shows to that person like that you really are interested. Like if you're talking to a big name engineer and you're just like, tell me about this, what about this, and you're so fascinated with it, they're sitting there thinking like, well, this guy, like, they're really interested and passionate. And a lot of times, like, engineers I've talked to, like, yes, they want the skill, but they also want the person that is passionate about it. And they would rather take
Absolutely.
somebody that has the passion and drive than somebody who's super proficient in audio engineering, but is like a horrible person and doesn't care and doesn't,
Well, because it's such and this is another thing that was like drilled into me, but I believe it 100%, and I preach it all the time, that this is a customer service industry. So like really you being a pleasant person to work with is more important than maybe your skill level, because everybody can learn. And I think that that's the whole point, is that they're like, oh, well, I can teach them. They've already got the people skills.
Yeah.
Whereas this guy has the worst people skills, but he knows what he's doing already.
You're going to want to work with the nice person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're going to want to work with the person that you're okay having in front of your clients, and that you know is going to be like personable and not freak out.
Yeah. Be nice. Be competitive. But be nice.
But be nice.
Play
and
nice, kids.
And respectful. Be respectful. I think like respect is a huge thing in this industry.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of why our motto really is like a safe space to share your passion, because we hope that we are those engineers that will like foster that environment where it's okay to like express yourself, and we hope that we're nice people to work with.
Yeah. I mean, if you're spouting, horrible, racist stuff, then no, because you're not being nice. Yeah. So there's a limit, obviously.
Yeah. Especially in this industry, you have to be a pretty open person.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
do we want to talk about our artist of the week?
Artist of the week. Yes.
Who's going to start us off?
I have one, and I want to say it because I don't want to forget it. There's a band from they're from Wisconsin. They're from Minnesota or Wisconsin, a Midwest band called Masked Intruder. They released a new single yesterday. It was recorded by Roger Lima at his studio down in Florida. Roger Lima is the bass player and one of the singers for one of my favorite bands, Less Than Jake. They're a really great gimmicky punk rock band. They play in different colored ski masks. And they're criminals, and they're just a great one of my new. They've been around for quite a while now, but as far as I like a lot of old '90s Tony Hawk Pro Skater punk rock. So as far as like a newer band that's not from early 2000s, I really like them, and I'm excited to hear it. I'm excited. Roger Lima has. It's kind of become his own project that he, self-records and stuff, called Rehasher. And he's really built a cool studio that he records out of. It's like Moat Studios, M-O-A-T, or Moat House or something like that. I can't remember. I should have looked it up more. But yeah, I'm really excited. I saw the music video. It's really fun. So check out Masked Intruder. Check out their new single. I can't remember the name of it. But just look for them and it'll pop up. It's good. Like that's how new it is. I don't remember the name of it.
Nice.
Sweet. My band of the week is another band that kind of got me into music around high school. It was what kind of got me into like making my own stuff on like Logic.
Was it the Ladybugs?
It was not the Ladybugs, although they definitely
pretty on top of their game.
Top of their game. They killed it. No, they're called Coco Rosie.
Oh, interesting.
They're two French sisters. And they like create all their own stuff with like synths and.
Oh, you've showed me them. Now.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah,
this.
And they're really, really cool. And I've always thought that there's something really, really special when like sisters or brothers or like just two people that are related like harmonize together. There's like something really magical that happens. I don't know. I personally feel that way. And they just create really, really cool, fun music. Their shows are amazing and theatrical, and they just put on like a whole show and come out in like costumes, and they have like storylines to all their songs that they follow.
Wow, cool.
But yeah, they're really amazing. Their vocals are beautiful. One of them's a trained opera singer.
Oh, me too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Side note.
So just like the vocal range and power is just impeccable, and they're just really, really talented. So yeah, Coco Rosie, check them out.
That's awesome. My artist of the week is Snarky Puppy. A great name, by the way.
Yes.
Snarky Puppy. They're a Brooklyn-based band, and what I will say is, I know some people aren't a big fan of jazz, and I totally understand it. I used to be that person until I went into it a little bit more. But Snarky Puppy, if you want to like somewhat get into jazz, or even are just like, I know people like it, why? Listen to Snarky Puppy, because it's kind of jazz, but it also incorporates a lot of rock, some funk as well. And they've won some Grammy Awards as well, so they know what's up. And they don't have any lead singers of the band, but they do often invite like artists to come sing with them, which is really cool. Their family dinner volume 2, I believe, is each song is like a different artist that came in. And then what's really cool from an audio engineering perspective is they record everything all live off the floor all together.
Nice.
They don't do any overdubs. I don't know if they record to a click track or not, but everything's all done live off the floor, which is a really cool engineering challenge because their mixes sound incredible for doing that, for have like literally everyone's next to each other and they're just in a big circle. And the other cool thing too is in the studio, they also invite like maybe 20 audience members to come in and just listen in the studio. So everyone's wearing headphones.
Yeah.
People are just kind of sitting there relaxing or whatever and just kind of watching what's going on. And it's just like a super cool, all of their songs are also filmed as well. So when they do the recording session, they also film it as well. So you can look them all up on YouTube. And watch them in their session. From an engineering perspective, you can like see like, oh, there's that mic. Oh, there's that mic. Oh, that's cool. So it's just they're super good, super talented. I think we like it here. I want to say the album, the drummer for that album. Hopefully, I'm getting this right. The drummer for that album, when you watch the album on YouTube, he learned those songs like 2 days before or something like that. It's literally insane.
One of those guys.
He's one of those guys. He's just like, I learned these songs like 2 days ago. We're gonna go record a full album in the studio, and it's gonna like be so good. And he's just like, he's one of my favorite parts.
So
of the band.
good.
He's
Yeah.
such a good drummer. He's so insane. I can't get enough of those guys. Anyways, so Snarky Puppy, look them up online, watch their videos. They're awesome.
Awesome. Cool. Check us out at 3 Moons Audio on Instagram, 3 Moons Audio on Facebook. You can find me at 3 Moons Gavin on Instagram.
You can find me at Odd Records on Instagram.
I am Jordan C. Smitty on Instagram. And our website is 3moonsaudio.com. We're also on YouTube as well, 3 Moons Audio on YouTube. We're also going to have our podcast on Apple Music and Spotify and on our website. You go to our website, there's like a little media tab. You can go and see our YouTube stuff and our podcast stuff as well. And look at our beautiful faces.
Yay!
Because we beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Cool. Until next time, friends. See ya.
Bye.